everybody. Welcome back to Alan Talking. I'm the voice of the common man. I'd like you to please subscribe to the channel and like us. Every little bit that we get helps a lot. We want to spread the word. And the topic I'm going to broach today is Pope Francis. Now, I'm a fallen away Catholic, but Francis to me was truly a breath of fresh air, especially considering his predecessor, Pope Benedict. Don't get me started on that one. Okay, so, he was the first pope that came from South America, first non-Italian pope in a while. And that, to me, in itself is a statement by the church that they are admitting where their future lies with the flock in South America more than it is in North America or Europe, because conditions there about religion have changed dramatically. Who am I to judge? Now, that's Christ-like. Judge not, lest ye be judged, okay? Meaning that we don't know anybody else, what they've gone through, what their lives have been like. And so you have a particular set of rules and regulations that you follow, but we don't know the motivating factors of other people's lives. Yes, he had to uphold the dogma of the church. I mean, he was the Pope, okay? There were certain things that the church claims are immutable. And, the church is a slowly evolving institution. And, heck, they still won't even allow women to be priests, whereas the Episcopalians and other denominations that are Christian denominations have gotten with it, in my opinion, and not been so rigid in their dogma like the Catholic Church has. And like I said, I'm a fallen away Catholic. But one of the things I was able to reconcile as a gay man, because for many years I hated the church. I looked at all what I considered the bad things that the church instituted and covered up. I mean, the sex scandal with the priests. And one of the things I hated about that more than anything was the juxtaposition and equalization of pedophilia and homosexuality. They are completely separate issues. And the implication was, in the sexual abuse scandal, was that it was gay men, priests, who were abusing young boys. And frankly, it boggles my mind that anyone can find something sexual about a child. I mean, I personally find that repulsive. Pedophilia is a condition for which there is really no defense, except for the fact that it's a condition, and I feel nothing but the utmost pity for anybody who has that condition. But I'm not going to judge them. I mean, we have laws that address that, and as such, they need to be addressed the way the law does address them. But Francis, he really opened my eyes and made me realize that the man I am today is a direct result of my upbringing, and I was brought up by two very devout Catholic people, okay, who imbued me with a set of values that they got from their upbringing, which was devout Catholicism. Okay, now, the rules and regulations are not Jesus's main focus. That's the church's main focus. But underlying those rules and regulations were certain values that my parents gave me through their association with the church that has softened me on my stance on the church, in that I am a very compassionate and empathetic person. And that was a big part of Christ's message. And I can now see a positive side. I was reminded of all of this when I happened to catch an episode of Jose Diaz Bayard. and he had on the gentleman who was a former ambassador to Rome.
To think about, Ambassador, I know that you had a chance to meet with Pope Francis. What are you going to remember about him?
Well, I think the jovial personality, I will never forget a couple of years ago that I, had a chance to pick up my guitar and to sing to him one of the famous Argentinian tangos, Adios muchachos, compañeros de mi vida. And he just bursted out in laughter. And so that kind of cordial, familial, heartfelt communication is something that I will always remember. But also to piggyback on what we have been discussing, two quotes from him, one of them more recently, and the other one was the very first things he uttered when he took this trip outside of Rome to the island of Lampedusa. And he said, we are a society which has forgotten how to weep, how to experience compassion, suffering with others. And then he used the term, the globalization of indifference has taken, from us the ability to weep. And I think this is a signature of his papacy, is compassion, is the care of the poor, the option for the marginalized, the peripheries. And then just recently when he sent a letter to U.S. bishops, very much pointing to what is going on in our country in terms of our lack of compassion for the most vulnerable. He talked about, he says, and I'll quote him, the true common good is promoted when a society and government with creativity and strict respect for the rights of all, as I have affirmed on numerous occasions, welcomes, protects, promotes, and integrates the most fragile, unprotected, and vulnerable among us. And then he concludes that, that paragraph, that section by saying what is built on the basis of force and not untruth about the equal dignity of every human being begins badly and ends badly. And so I think that, his care for the planet, his cares for the common good, his phrase, economies that kill, to emphasize people over profit. Who am I to judge when he issues this statement with respect to members of the LGBTQ plus community like myself, his meeting with trans people? I think all of that speaks to, really simply the preaching and the praxis of Jesus, for those of us that call ourselves Christians, in terms of, putting that into practice, the heart over laws, and really paying attention to concrete human lives and their stories.
How about that? The equal dignity of every human being was a value given to me by the church through my parents, for which I am eternally grateful. I call myself a Christian with a small c, mainly because the rules, the regulations, the catechism, all those things to me were secondary to Christ's main message, which was to love one another. And with that, I think I've hit on the high points that I wanted to talk about today about Pope Paul. But one final comment. I think that many of us today have forgotten the essence of Christianity. And I want to thank Francis for reminding us Christ's essential message of loving one another. That's it for today's edition of Alan Talking. I hope you found it interesting. I know it was a little personal, but I couldn't talk about the Pope without talking about my Catholic upbringing and my relation to my faith. And again, please subscribe, like the video, and comments are greatly appreciated. And we'll see you next time.